The most powerful corporations on Earth had a total monopoly, infinite budgets, and the backing of the United States government. Yet, they were brought to the brink of bankruptcy by foreign competitors who started out making motorized bicycles and automatic looms. In the 1950s, Detroit was completely untouchable. General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler controlled over 90% of the American road. They built massive chrome-plated land yachts with enormous gas-guzzling V8 engines. When a quirky Japanese company named Toyota tried to enter the US market in 1957 with a tiny bug-eyed car called the Toyopet, it was an absolute disaster. The car was laughably underpowered, it severely overheated on American highways, and it vibrated uncontrollably past 60 miles per hour. Detroit executives literally laughed at it. They dismissed these foreign cars as cheap, ugly copies that real Americans would never seriously consider buying. They thought their dominance was permanent. That laughter bred a lethal industry-wide complacency. For the next 15 years, American automakers suffered from what historians call the Detroit mind. They firmly believed that size equaled status, that safety didn't sell, and that fuel efficiency simply didn't matter to the American consumer. But while American executives were busy adding even bigger tail fins to their luxury sedans, the Japanese engineers silently went back to the drawing board. They didn't just try to copy American cars. They completely re-engineered how a car should be manufactured. They obsessed over a concept called lean manufacturing, systematically eliminating every ounce of waste from the assembly line and prioritizing extreme, unforgiving reliability. They were building cars that simply wouldn't break down. Then, in 1973, the world changed overnight. The global oil crisis hit. Gas prices quadrupled in a matter of months, and lines at the fuel pumps stretched for blocks. Suddenly, driving a 2-ton gas guzzler wasn't a symbol of American prosperity. It was a massive financial liability. Detroit panicked. They rushed to build smaller cars, but because they had arrogantly ignored the small car market for decades, their rushed models were notorious disasters plagued with severe quality issues. Meanwhile, sitting quietly in the showrooms were Japanese cars that were highly affordable, practically indestructible, and got 30 miles to the gallon. The trap had been set perfectly. But the ultimate humiliation wasn't just about losing sales volume. It was about being totally outclassed in pure engineering. In the early 1970s, the US government passed strict new clean air emissions laws. The CEO of General Motors publicly declared that the new standards were physically impossible to meet without crippling engine performance and destroying drivability. Then, Honda, a company best known to Americans for making cheap motorcycles, introduced their revolutionary CVCC engine. It met the impossible emission standards effortlessly, and it did it without even needing a restrictive catalytic converter. The CEO of General Motors scoffed. He publicly stated that while Honda's little toy engine might work on a tiny Japanese car, it could never possibly work on a real, full-sized American automobile. Honda's brilliant founder, Soichiro Honda, took that comment personally. He bought a heavy Chevrolet Impala, shipped it all the way to Japan, ripped out GM's massive V8 engine, and retrofitted it with a Honda CVCC engine. He then shipped the Impala back to the EPA laboratory in Michigan for testing. The Honda-powered Chevy not only passed the strict emissions test, but it also got significantly better gas mileage than the original GM engine. Detroit wasn't laughing anymore. The comforting narrative that foreign cars were just cheap, disposable knockoffs evaporated entirely. They had been fundamentally out-engineered on their own soil by a company they had openly mocked. Throughout the late 70s and into the 1980s, Toyota, Honda, and Nissan captured massive, unprecedented segments of the United States market. American automakers hemorrhaged billions of dollars in revenue. Chrysler came so close to total collapse that they required a massive federal bailout just to survive the decade. The arrogant companies that had once dictated the global standard for manufacturing were now scrambling to learn Japanese production techniques just to stay relevant in a market they invented. Detroit lost its crown because it fell deeply in love with its own assumptions. They assumed their market share was a birthright. They assumed a competitor starting with a disadvantage was just a joke. The Japanese automakers didn't win by outspending the big three. They won by respecting the consumer, obsessing over the engineering, and taking the work seriously while the giants were busy laughing. Don't let your own success make you complacent. The market always punishes arrogance. Subscribe if you want to see who disrupts the giants next.